All right, we'll call this meeting of the Board of Supervisors to order. At this time, Randy, will you take the roll call, please?
Sure. Supervisor Lewis.
Present.
Supervisor Day.
Here.
Supervisor Ayers. Here. Supervisor McDaniel.
Here.
Chairman Lyons.
Here, thank you. Now we'll have an invocation. Mr. Lewis, followed by the pledge.
Please join us for some time. Dear Lord, help guide us in this meeting so that the results can be appreciated and seen days, months, and even years after today. We seek you for guidance and instruction to make the right decision. Giving all the glory to you in Jesus' name. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Special announcements. While the room will be open to the public, due to the size of the meeting room and social distancing requirements, no more than 30 attendees will be allowed into the room at one time per the Governor of the Commonwealth of Virginia, Executive Order 63. All persons over the age of 10 that do not have a precluding medical condition are asked to wear a face covering. We'll hold citizen comment near the beginning of the meeting. We'll do our best to take citizen comment remotely. There are two options for citizens to offer comment. They can join the Rockbridge County Board of Supervisors Zoom webinar. The link is on our county website. If you can join by telephone, you may dial into one of the numbers on our website for a webinar ID and password. If you wish to view the meeting live or after the fact, that can be done on the Rockbridge County Board of Supervisors YouTube channel, which is also available on our website. If you wish to make a citizen comment as a Zoom meeting participant, you will use the raise your hand feature. You can press the raise your hand button on the bottom of your Zoom window or press *9 if you are calling in by telephone. At this time, are there any changes to the agenda? And we'll move on. We have a recognition, a proclamation. Ms. Ayers?
Yes. Proclamation expressing the appreciation of the Board of Supervisors of Rockbridge County to local fire agencies and firefighters. Whereas the President of the United States traditionally designates the week in which the date of October 9th falls as National Fire Prevention Week. And whereas the men and women of the fire agencies serving Rockbridge County, the City of Lexington, and the City of Buena Vista provide a vital public service by responding to the fire suppression and technical rescue needs of our residents and visitors. And whereas it is important that all citizens know and understand that fighting fires is one of the most hazardous professions, requiring physical strength, stamina, and courage. And whereas safety of our citizens is a primary goal of local, state, and national government. And whereas firefighters are often among the first to arrive upon the scene of emergencies and disasters, be they medical, national, or man-made, to provide immediate and often life-saving assistance. And whereas firefighters participate in numerous hours of rigorous training and continuing education in order to enhance their life and property saving skills. And whereas our firefighters have demonstrated a high level of commitment and dedication to their communities and fellow citizens by providing continuous care and service during a national pandemic. Now, therefore, we, the Rockbridge County Board of Supervisors, recognize the week of October 4th through the 10th, 2020 as National Fire Prevention Week, during which all of our residents may join in celebrating the dedication of our local fire departments and firefighters, past and present, and their families whose support allows them to serve our community.
Thank you. Can we have a motion to approve? So, second? All right. Mr. Lewis?
Aye.
Mr. McDaniel? Yes. Ms. Ayers?
Yes.
Mr. Day?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. Thank you. Now it's time for citizens' comments. Has anyone signed up
No, sir.
Okay, do we have anybody remotely? Electronically? Okay, we'll move on. Has everyone had a chance to review the minutes from September 14th and September 28th? Make a motion to approve those results. Okay, we have a motion to approve. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
And a second. Any discussion? Mr. McDaniel? Yes. Mr. Day?
Yes.
Ms. Ayers?
Yes.
Mr. Lewis?
Aye.
And the chair votes yes. Financial reports.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. If you go to your board docs package, you'll see that there is a memorandum that gives kind of an executive summary of what is taking place with the Commissioner of the Revenue and then also the Treasurer. So a couple of the items are related to personal property. As you know, that was due to the county on October 5th. They are making some adjustments to their records and files based on changes with personal property taxes with individuals. Mr. Weitzel's office is preparing what's called the Public Service Corporation Tax Book. That is being presented to the treasurer hopefully later this month. In addition, they're updating changes to the second half real estate billing. As far as looking into 2021, they are making updates to the land use revalidation records and also starting to prepare tax forms for FY calendar year 21. If there's no questions, I'll move on to Mr. Travato's activities for the month. We have had auditors both from the state and our local auditors. You can see at the bullet number 1 that the state auditors came in on the 15th and 16th, and the state has issued a letter that everything is in accordance with state law and everything is in good standing. We had our local auditors here last week, and we also have another set of auditors coming October 26th and 28th, and that's for the county's audit for FY 2020. They continued to collect personal property taxes. Again, those were due back on October 5th. She will begin to do at the end of the month work on the delinquent notices for personal property taxes. And she is preparing a delinquent real estate file that's going to be sent to the Taxing Authority Consulting Services attorneys. They're the ones that work on delinquent taxes. So the files are for 2017 and earlier. And those will be due for collection. We're due on October 6th. And they are getting ready to receive the real estate tax book that Mr. Weitzel and his team will prepare. And so the first half, well, it says end of month preparation for real estate billings due December 5th. I believe that should be June 5th. So she's getting, I'm sorry, December 5th, yes. So she's getting ready to prepare that tax book to send out to citizens probably in early November. If there's no questions for Mr. Travato, I'll transition to the Fiscal Services Department update. Before I get into the line chart, there is a submission for review of the draft FY 2020 funding priorities. And I'll try and highlight some of the key things as we look forward into FY 2022's budget development. And I think the key word is uncertainty. There's a lot of uncertainty moving forward over the next several months. With that, I did highlight a couple things that came out of a May 2020 Congressional Budget Office report. One of the key things was that there is a forecast that the U.S.'s real gross domestic product will not regain its prior levels of December 2019 pre-COVID-19 pandemic levels until probably 2022 or later. Looking at the state, you may recall back in August, Governor Northam had announced that state revenues were projected to be less by 2.7 billion over the next 2 fiscal years. And they did also announce that probably in December 2020 that there would be a recalculation on that forecast. So all of that plays an impact, obviously, from the feds down to the state, down to the local level. And so at this point, we don't know when things are going to improve locally, but we certainly hope they will sooner rather than later. Having said that, with kind of uncertainty being the new norm, the board plans to move forward to preserve the county's sound fiscal position. We have a set of financial policies that we follow, and we also have the board's mission, vision statement. And so with that, we will use those two documents to guide the budget development for FY 2022 in order to get a balanced budget for the board to consider. With that, I'll go ahead and transition unless there's any questions on it, and I'll follow up after I do the budget schedule with what staff is requesting from the board. With that, you've got a draft FY 22 budget cycle schedule. And as you know, basically the staff looks at when is the first half real estate taxes due, like June 5th, and we start to work our way backwards. And as we're looking backwards, we're also looking at what the state code requires. So May 1st, unless there's anything that goes on with delays in the General Assembly, typically May 1st is when county school division budgets need to be passed. Go back 30 days early to that, April 1st is when county school divisions submit their actual requests to county governments across the Commonwealth. And so we worked our way back. We did our best to try and align budget meetings with regular Board of Supervisor meetings. That was not always the case. So it just highlights when we're presenting, nonprofits are presenting in early February, when staff will present the draft budget in late February. And then as we kind of move through the fiscal year, we'll be presenting at regular board meetings. But based on when the school division has to submit their official request to the county, we were not able to get we were only able to get the last meeting in April as part of the regular board meeting. So you'll see April 5th is when currently we are asking or projecting when staff will ask the board to approve the advertisement for the FY 22 budget. We'll come back on the 19th for a public hearing, and then again on the 26th budget adoption. So with that, if there's any kind of questions or comments or edits that the board would like to either discuss now, we're certainly available. If not, we are asking that the board speak to Supervisor Lewis and Supervisor McDaniel on any potential changes to the funding priorities and the budget schedule. And they'll certainly communicate that down to Mr. Suter and myself to make any kind of adjustments. Again, we're available to discuss any changes or edits that the board wants to consider. Okay, I'm not seeing anything, so we'll go ahead and move to the line chart. This represents data through September 2020. So we're 25% through the fiscal year. So we have 75% of the year to go. As I've mentioned in previous meetings, the line chart represents data that covers the prior 3 fiscal years and what typically would happen based on that information. So some of the changes that you may see or differences between the line chart and actuals reflect the fact that not every fiscal year goes as prior fiscal years go. With that, the numbers are pretty consistent. They're both higher. Expenditures are slightly higher. Revenues are slightly higher. In general, we're where we're expected to be at when it comes to expenditures versus revenues. Just a few things that I'll just mention. We've been watching them over the last several months since the pandemic started. So local 1% sales tax, when you look at September, the total amount collected was $284,677. This is up $12,495 or 4.59% compared to last year. So that's a positive sign that we are doing better than we did same time last year in light of the pandemic. In regards to the meals tax, it's a similar track. For the month of September, it was $195,656 that came in. That's up $46,171 or 30.89% when we compare it to same time last year, so September 2019. So again, that reflects well in light of the pandemic.
So you're saying we did that
Yes, ma'am.
then last year
Yes,
before the.
yes.
Oh,
How is that?
yeah.
It's consumer, it's consumption.
I realize that. Oh, that's true. Is that-
There was, yes, and I'm glad you mentioned that. I did have that as a mental note, that there was an increase to meals tax, and I was going to mention that on the next item as well.
Is there any way you could calculate what it would have been at the old rate?
As far as the meals tax?
Well,
Yeah.
I'm just trying to get an idea of where we are versus.
Absolutely.
Now.
And what I could do is I can send that out to the board.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so the next one is the occupancy tax. So this one is actually lower. So we collected 192,455 in September. That's down 11,434. That's down 5.61%. But one of the things that I had a mental note on is that we did increase, obviously the board approved a 2% increase on lodging taxes. So I don't have the number of what it would be without that additional amount, other than to say that that particular 2% is around $44,000 higher than it was same time last year. So basically double. And then just some positive news as far as Lake Robertson, with the pandemic, a lot of people are wanting to get outside. So Lake Robertson campground fees are actually up $3,043, or about 29% compared to same time last year.
Do you know whether we're at occupancy? Are we full?
I don't have that information. I can certainly ask Mr. Nicely.
There's still some limitations out there, but they stay pretty well for what they can do. Nathan, you might be able to speak a little bit better to that. You spent a little more time out there.
Yeah, it's actually been, within the limitations, it's been not pretty cool.
I know-
Summer, actually, or since we opened up.
When I see Mr. Nicely has, usually it's on after a weekend, and he has said that it's been pretty packed at Lake Robertson at the campground. So, okay, if there are no questions on the line chart or some of the information I provided, I do have some changes on the approval of the bills resolution. And so I know there was some communication late last week. And so we did recode the allotments, the one-time increase to fire and rescue volunteer agencies. And so we initially had that coded under CARES Act, and a decision or a discussion and a decision was made to go ahead and recode that to the general fund. And so those changes represent, there was a sheet that I handed out to staff and to the board. And it's got basically in red, it shows what the changes were for general fund. So the general fund is now $1,065,145.15, which is up from $818. And for Fund 202, it's down from $360 to $113,285.34. Overall, it didn't really change the numbers outside of those two specific funds. So there was 549 invoices on the bills list. And if there's any questions, I've got some notes on ones that just stood out to me. But if not, the recommendation is to approve the payment of the bills for the month of October.
We have a second. Second. Any questions? Mr. Lewis? Aye. Sarah?
Yes.
Mr. McCann? Yes. Mr. Day?
Yeah.
Chair votes yes.
All right, thank you.
Do you need us to approve the priorities and the schedule?
No, what I'll do is I'll come back at the next board meeting and ask the board to adopt the funding priorities and the schedule.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, the update on Fire and Rescue Officers Association. Chief, welcome.
Good afternoon, or good evening, Chairman and members of the board. I'd like to note that Chief Steve Reese is with us tonight to answer any questions that may come up from this. From the last month's meeting on the 14th, as you may recall, we kind of give a brief report of from the June 22nd meeting. and come away from last month's meeting with a couple of items. And those items were to separate the Constitution and bylaws into two different articles or two different documents, articles of incorporation and bylaws. And then in regards to that, we've talked to, I actually met with the leadership, Chief Reese, Chief Wilmer is the presidents of the RERG, current RERG and the RCFA. While they weren't against that request, it kind of produced some questions is because essentially the way that the Constitution was written for this group is essentially in line with the way that the volunteer agencies are currently formed, and that they were not going to be incorporated, and that kind of sparked some questions. So in consultation with Ms. Huffman and Mr. Suter, would you like to add any more to that, or?
No, it's just, and I understand where they're coming from, and of course, this is just an offer to assist. If the Board of Supervisors was setting something up that would have the articles and bylaws, but there's nothing really wrong with doing it this way. If that's the way they want to do it, I've got no serious qualms about it. It's their organization that they'd be setting up.
Legally, we're fine.
And along with that meeting, I presented them one of the questions come up after speaking with Ms. Ayers on the financial the funding of the organizations of where the money would actually, the funds would actually go to versus the RERG and the RCFA, as they were not meeting as those particular groups. And both Chief Reese and Chief Wilmer also agreed to setting up an account under the association that the funds would go into that, and then their two treasurers would manage from that particular fund. That was really the only major topics that we talked about. There is a couple of internal things there that's come up since that I think they'll adjust a little bit after looking and reading a couple wordings here and there. They are still planning to meet next Tuesday at the County Fire and Rescue Administration Building. And just as a reminder, a couple of things that we would request to do would be to notify the City of Lexington and Buena Vista on terminating the agreement with the Fire Rescue Commission, and then to amend some wording there to recognize the Volunteer Emergency Officers Association in the Chapter 14 of the code.
Which means that would be setting of a public hearing for the next meeting, advertising the proposed changes in code. And we would do an official notification by a letter, and we have discussed this along the way with the cities.
Anybody have any questions? So the only action we need to do is set up the public hearing.
That's correct, and authorize me to notify the city managers of the board's decision to, I guess, exercise the portion of the agreement with setting up the Fire and Rescue Commission that you propose to basically dissolve it in 90 days.
Anybody have any objections to that?
I think it's great. It's a long time coming. I'm glad everybody worked through. I'm glad the volunteers are supported us. We want to support them.
Congratulations.
All right.
All right, thank you.
Thank you all.
We need a motion to set the public hearing now?
Should we make a motion?
Do you want a motion or a vote to set the public hearing? or what?
Usually you do, I'm not sure that it's required, but that's what
I
your
think we
normal
have
process.
just to be on the safe side.
They may feel better.
All right,
Used to that.
do we have a second?
Second.
All right. Mr. Lewis,
Aye.
Ms. Ayers,
Aye.
Ms. McDaniel. Yep. And the chair votes yes. Just
Thank
show Mr. Day is being out. Mr. Suter, or Ms. Huffman?
I'm gonna
Ms. Huffman,
start
you're gonna
out-
do this, okay. Come on.
I've started working with this before I was out last week, and then Spencer picked up the slack and negotiated the numbers while I was gone, and so it's a team effort. As the board knows, we did an option to purchase agreement with Jerry Locker about this time last year. And for various reasons, we've continued to extend that option agreement through October 22nd of this year, at which time it will expire. So we have discussed with Mr. Locker and his attorney, I with the attorney, Spencer with Mr. Locker directly, regarding proceeding with the purchase of just block 66 so that the project can proceed pending resolving the issues with the two unknown lots that are in the far rear of that site. So that was agreeable. And during this last extension period, Mr. Locker has acquired a number of additional lots from Max Westmoreland, who owns two of the lots right in the middle of, or who did own, now Locker owns two lots right in the middle of the site that is proposed for this collection center. So in order to add those to the option agreement and have the due diligence done on those lots, along with the other lots that we've already done the work to prepare acquisition, we're suggesting a modification of the option agreement to include those two lots. And then to extend it for another 90 days with option to extend another 90 days, allowing time to pull that together, potentially close on block 66, and then hopefully they can resolve the additional issues with block 49. The additional purchase price would be $7,000. Oh, there are 6 lots that they have requested the county to purchase. Those have been added into the legal description for this option agreement on Exhibit A. Those lots fill out. I do better with pictures, but I can show you this way. It's in red.
Is it up there or is it
I'll-
in our packet?
I'll pull it up.
Between the site and the edge of the block, there are 3 lots here that are going to be left kind of sitting by themselves with no real value, not combined with the other property here and here. Are you pointing?
I
to-
am.
okay.
Essentially, the owner came to us and said, look, we want to do this, we want to help the county out on this, but we're going to orphan these 3 lots because even put together, they're not really enough for them to do anything with, and that's all they own out to the end. So they asked if we could combine these. And what we did, we took, there are 3 different bases on price. The front row is worth, and I've got it written down over there, but I think it's about $1,600 a lot as far as the assessment. And that's what we based our initial per lot price generally on. And the back lots are worth about, or the middle lots are worth about $857 a lot. So, and we didn't add anything in the back, so there's no basis there. But essentially we applied that to these 6 lots. And additionally, these 2 lots in the front that were owned by Max Westmoreland, but are now owned by Mr. Locker. So they were added for a combined total of 8 lots. And we used the cost basis for the front lots We use the front lot basis, the middle lot basis. So essentially, we're using the same basis per lot. And the total is just over $7,000, $7,137 additional cost to the county.
Can you point out the lots that are still not, the title's not clear on?
It's one of these, a couple of these two back here that they're still working on title. However, I will say this, with the acquisition of these front two lots, it makes it a whole lot easier and more cost effective to construct a site there, because this site, amazingly enough, even down in the 130 area, I had always, driving down visually, you think that it slopes away into the water along 130. This actually rises as you get to the back. So we have a design, a general site design that would not necessarily need these two lots in the back, but it provides additional buffer back there and an option forward. So that's what Ms. Huffman was talking about, resolving these two lots. And I'm not 100% sure which ones they are back there.
It's these two. Where my finger is.
It's about right in the
They're
center.
marked as unknowns on the maps right now.
Yep, this one and this one. And while we, well, I'm not going to get into Ms. Huffman's business, while we don't anticipate a tremendous amount of problem there, you don't know until the title work is done. Fact of the matter is, it would not have a significant negative impact that we can see.
So for right now, the request is for the board, if acceptable, to authorize the county administrator to sign this amended and extended option agreement. And before any exercise of the option is done, we would come back to the board for authority to exercise the option on any number of these lots. So for right now, we just need to get something in place to move forward. We don't think it'll require much more time to complete with block 66.
Questions from Ms. Huffman? You've heard her request. We have a motion to authorize the county administrator to sign the agreement as amended. We have a second. Second. Mr. Day?
Yes.
Ms. Ayers? Mr. Lewis?
Aye.
Mr. McDaniel?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes.
So the next item is a refund of real property tax based on tax relief for veterans with 100% service-connected disabilities to John J. Schaus. I think I'm pronouncing that correctly. Mr. Schaus submitted his application to the Commissioner of Revenue, and the Commissioner of Revenue has certified a finding that the official date of disability was September 1st, 2018, which would entitle him under the Constitution to a tax relief from the date of disability. Under county code adopted per state code, any correction resulting in a refund over $2,500 or greater requires certification by the Commissioner of Revenue and approval by the county attorney to come to the Board of Supervisors to authorize that refund by the treasurer. That's what this request is. The refund would be $4,352. There is no interest due and payable on these types of refunds per state code. And so the request is to authorize the treasurer to issue the refund to Mr. Schaus.
You've heard the request. Do we have a motion? You have a second? Okay. Further discussion. Mr. McDaniel? Yes. Mr. Lewis? Day?
Yes.
Ms. Ayers?
Yes.
And Chair votes yes. Thank you, Ms. Hopkins.
Thank you.
Has everyone had time to review the monthly staff reports?
Motion to approve as presented.
All right, do you have a second? And a second, Mr. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mr. Lewis?
Aye.
Ms. Ayers?
Yes.
Mr. Day?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. Appointments. Have we found a replacement for Mr. Sauter yet? Okay.
To my knowledge, we haven't had any
I,
applicants.
we have not.
For feedback, so continue to search.
I guess haven't had any application for the Board of Building Code Board of Appeals at all. What about the PSA, Mr. Melvin? Is anyone willing to continue serving or?
I'm not sure. I always want to check with the board first to see if we want to reapproach him. I think he's done a fantastic job, as has Mr. Mullen.
Anyone have an objection to Mr. Suter reaching out to them, see if they want to continue? Can you do that for us, Mr. Suter? Okay. Anything else from the board?
My sense is that Mr. Mullen certainly does, but I wasn't able to catch him 100%.
I was trying to run him down the hall today. And I'm just-
I'm sorry, Dan, no, sir.
That's okay.
I just had a couple comments, a question about, that goes along sort of with the option purchase for the locker lot. As you move north along 130 towards Glasgow, that area through there has a lot of standing water. Is there anything that we can do while we're in that area to help address that?
The only thing that I can, the only thing I can guarantee you that we will do, that I know we can do, is ensure that our stormwater doesn't further contribute to that, that our stormwater management is such that we don't discharge any more than we should from that lot. Now, what we have control over there on the road frontage, certainly we will do everything we can to not contribute to it, and if possible, reduce it. At least from what we have control over there in the front, in our frontage. Now, we're not gonna be able to go into somebody else's property and do anything, and of course, we discussed with VDOT there, you know, the ditch line and that type of thing, but I can assure you that it will be designed such that it's not going to contribute to the problem.
I was wondering if perhaps with us potentially doing construction down there, VDOT might not help us out some of that ditch line through there. Potential.
Yeah, I can certainly talk to them. I don't want to make any promises or cut any checks I can't cash, but we can certainly talk about working together on that. And of course, the only thing we have control over is what we have ownership. But if they wanted to extend some ditch line work down through there, maybe that could be a possibility.
Do we, I've had a couple constituents and I've been working with Mr. Suter on it. I was just wondering if the board had any other thoughts about letter pickup along some of the roads. I have some constituents in my area that do it on their own, but they're older and they're becoming a little more worried about being out on the side of the road picking up trash. I know we talked to VDOT and I believe they said they were trying to work on it. From what I understand from the constituent, VDOT came through with mode, but didn't bother picking up any letters. So
Make it small.
yeah.
For more pieces.
So, I mean, I didn't know if there was something with the sheriff's office with potential inmates. I didn't know if they still did that any or.
Well, that was, without getting too deep into it, I'll give you the concise story. We had a contract lined up with the Rockbridge Regional Jail and VDOT that we've been working on. VDOT have been working real hard on it to actually begin that process of having inmate labor where the inmates would actually get paid something and be able to be productive and go out and do that. And that was slated to be signed and begin July 1. The money was in the budget, to my understanding, and that's when COVID hit, and VDOT they had to pull the plug on that because there was no additional spending. At the same time, we became concerned about the jail inmate population and people leaving and going back to a controlled environment there. So the actual inmate work, matter of fact, the stuff that the inmates going to the landfill, going to the two cities, they were on a rotational schedule, and Buena Vista had 4 pretty much every day that they were paying for. That has ceased because they didn't want an inmate going out, potentially contracting the virus and then bringing it back into that population in that confined area. Though that is still on the table, and it's a high priority for me personally, because I get the calls too, that when we emerge from on the other side of this storm, that's one of the things I want to get back into with VDOT, because I think it was a very good program where VDOT come pick them up and take them out, and it's not just litter pickup, but it's other VDOT projects where it's just cleaning up brush or doing that type of thing. That doesn't help you in the meantime, doesn't help you, doesn't help the neighbors, but right now the reliance is on essentially volunteer. I mean, I do it a couple Saturdays a year too. We've got an area with Natural Bridge Roofs that we clean up, and then Natural Bridge State Park Friends of the Bridge cleans up. And so I'm so very appreciative for those folks that actually do go out there and get that. There was a whole gang of people on Route 11 the other day cleaning up. So
And they do great
They do.
work. It's just, after a while, it gets old.
it does.
But I didn't know with our recycling program at the county level, it was something where we could try to promote, different areas of the county, maybe once a month to kind of gather people to get out and pick up litter. Or
We do that, but it's not once a month. It's a spring cleanup day. We participate in it with RAC. Oh shoot.
We didn't do it this year.
We didn't do it because the pandemic was right in the middle of it. And then that's the other thing too. VDOT's under pressure to mow, but the summertime is not the time to pick up trash because the weeds are so high and the bugs and snakes and everything else. So typically wintertime and early spring is when we do trash pickup days, when you have, and usually it's early spring, Marchish, because that's when you have a good chance for some decent weather and the foliage hasn't picked up yet. So that's when we target that. Daniel Meyer is certainly, he's proven that he would like to, branch out and do other things. And so certainly we could try to have some of that coordination. But again, I don't want to write checks I can't cash because we do have a program to do that. Maybe we could expand it to the spring and the fall. We used to just have household hazardous waste day once a year. Now we try to have it twice. So maybe that's something that we can maybe try to coordinate twice. But it would have to be late fall the way our summers have been extending into the winter.
Is there any way we can give support to groups for, bags and everything pick up trash with, if they could come and use those resources from us?
VDOT has and we provide them, we hand them out at the centers for the household, or for the cleanup day. We coordinate with RAC and we give them out, especially at Greenhouse Road. And I'm pretty sure that VDOT participates in that when you have Adopt a Highway program, that they provide the bags and that type of thing. And actually, I was a little bit surprised. I saw a private truck picking up, or probably it was not a VDOT truck, but a lot of times you'll see the orange bags along the road, and a VDOT truck will come back the next day and pick those up. So they participate that way as well.
The other thing is, I look, when you go down 39, I mean, it's hazardous for anybody to be along that road and pick up, and there's so much trash, like, on down, that what kind of support, even if we were gonna do this, we need some kind of support to help pedestrians not get killed on these areas.
A lot easier if you can just in tow trash, that's one thing.
Amen.
The other thing I just wanted to bring to the board's attention, Mr. Suter's been very kind to help me with it. For citizens who are paying taxes online with a credit card, it comes up and it says convenience fee. I just want to make sure the public's aware, that's not a fee the county is collecting. That's a fee that's just a pass through from either the company or the credit card or whatnot assessed for using the credit card. Am I correct in saying that?
There's two ways. Yes, one, that's correct on one. The other one is to offset the cost of the gateway that the treasurer has to use for that. So it's not, in other words, to answer your question, the county, very succinctly, the county's not making any money on that fee. It's used to offset the cost of the collection or for the credit card.
Can they pay electronically by check and not have that fee?
I believe that is, I will get you an answer to that.
Automatic withdrawal.
Yeah, I mean, there should be a way to do that.
So they have to apply the search warrant, yeah.
Yeah, I just want to make sure with the taxes, we're every possible way we're utilizing.
I'm not sure that's true, though, that there is that option. I hope there is that option, that there is an option for people to do electronically that doesn't cost them anything right out of their check.
Well, I guess it depends on the bank. On bank, over my account, have the bank send a check. Depending on where it's going, sometimes it goes electronically, sometimes the bank actually has to cut a check and mail it to the department within the building. And they tell you to do it. If you have to do it on this date, they guarantee it'll arrive by this date, so you got to. But a lot of companies, it's an electronic transfer. I don't know that you can transfer electronically to the county.
But I'm correct to say it's supposed to mark the accounts in terms of our taxes, right?
Yes.
As long as it's post-dated by the,
Yes.
so there is that option for everybody.
The other thing, to Supervisor McDaniel's point, it was a little confusing on the county website. It was a lot confusing in one way. It mentioned PayPal here, and then it mentioned can't use PayPal, but then it says this is something having to do with PayPal. So Stefan is working on that. He's working with what we've done is mock something up that we think is going to be much more explicit so that somebody understands. And then he's got to get it approved by Mr. Vada, which we were talking about today. And I think he might have already carried it down there.
Just a little misleading when it says convenience fee.
I'm not sure if we can do anything about the language on that, but we're just calling it a fee now.
Mr. Chairman, the last thing I had, I think we all received some emails around fee structure for personal property tax. And the citizens having to contact the Commissioner of Revenue's office or to notify them when they sell a vehicle or to me, with the technology that exists now, we shouldn't be relying on citizens to contact anybody. It should be a straight file transfer from DMV. Now, this particular year, with the state shutting everything down, DMV being shut down, it's been a nightmare trying to get stuff from DMV. So I'm not sure if that's something we can look at a future date, how that works or not.
Maybe we could get Mr. Weitzel to come and explain it to us.
I like that.
Check that out, Mr. Consider.
Can certainly do that, yes.
Anything else? We would like to have a board retreat. Put some dates out. Has everyone had a chance to look at those?
I haven't,
Chance?
I haven't sent, I just sent them to you
Okay,
to start
and
with.
the two dates in mind right now are November 4th or November 5th. Does that work for everybody?
The 5th, just so,
Thursday,
you
Friday.
just so you know, it's a Wednesday, Thursday. Just so you know, that Thursday is the day board docs are due, so it does put a little pressure on staff.
So our preference would be the 4th.
Yeah,
Day after
and,
election.
yeah, well, I'm trying to give staff, you know, we would have a fair amount to prepare for these things, and I'm trying to give us several weeks to pull together the information that is gonna make it hopefully beneficial for the board and come out of there with some good outcomes. And so that was the earliest I could kind of get it. If it was a week after that, we looked at too, but I also have to look at staff's availability, because this is it's kind of difficult pulling everybody together, but I thought I'd start with the board and see when you all were available and then see what we can do.
In general, Wednesday, Thursdays are good.
What time frame are we talking about?
Depending on how deep begins things, we've got some multiple topics that I'd heard the board wanted to talk about. You know, if you're doing treat, 9 to 5, depending on how much y'all want to discuss. The other option is to break it up and do a couple of different days. You know, it's just whatever makes the most sense for the board is, and the staff can pull together to meet your needs. That's certainly our goal.
If everyone will sleep on that tonight and send Spencer a message tomorrow as to what your preference is.
Yeah, initially, it's hard to block out that much time with work and also homeschooling. So at this point, so
Half day.
throwing out, yeah, I mean, maybe a couple of those. I agree that there's many things we need to discuss and should be discussing. I just initially, it's just hard to block out
What if we looked at
a whole day? So
at a half day and then could generate some board discussion for return with additional information or whatever on a second date a week or two later?
I'm one person, but yeah, I mean, it's just a thought.
I'm fine either way.
All right, well, I'll shoot for a half day, and then, sometimes at the end of 8 hours of that kind of discussion, everybody's ready to go.
And if there's any strong opposition, so they should reach out to you more. Let's reach out to me and I'll reach out to you. Okay. Anything else? Do we have a motion to adjourn? Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you very much. We will convene the Blue Ridge Resource Authority at 7 o'clock. Sorry.
Yes, sir.
October 26th,
Yes, sir.
I have a 10 o'clock solid waste committee meeting.
No, isn't it?
It's-
Yes, sir. Don't we have a?
That's fire rescue.
Is that what it's made? It is fire. I don't have
Spencer,
that.
you have your,
On the 26th? Let me look.
some reason 10 o'clock I have solid waste, that might be a mistake.
I hope it's a mistake. Let's see if it's a mistake.
I think that all the time.
I hope. I bet it was September 26th. Up here.
There you go. That's the mistake.
There'll be
I
other.
don't like, I don't like to miss this.
There'll be other.
I don't have that.
All right.
Let me check September and see what that said.
Well, if it was, because I don't. Or even the voice